Hey everyone! Tonight we return to ancient Egypt, not to the throne rooms of pharaohs, but to the hot quarries and sunlit ramps where stone met sweat, and ambition met endurance. Our story follows a skilled labourer, one of thousands who shaped eternity one block at a time. Not a slave, not a noble, but a builder, a man who rose with the sun, worked with calloused hands, and found quiet meaning in creating something that would outlive them all. Before we begin, if these slower, reflective journeys help you unwind, consider liking the video and subscribing. It means more than you know, and helps us keep bringing the past to life, gently. And here's something I'd love to hear tonight. If you could ask just one question to someone who helped build the pyramids, what would it be? Leave it in the comments. I always enjoy reading your thoughts and wondering alongside you. Now take a deep breath. Picture the golden light, the distant thud of stone on stone, and the quiet murmur of a civilization at work, and let yourself drift back in time. The morning sun touches my face with the gentleness of a mother's hand, warming the skin that has known so many dawns like this one. I open my eyes to see the same canvas tent above me, its rough weave filtering the golden light into soft patterns that dance across my weathered palms. The air carries the familiar scent of the Nile, that sweet earthiness mixed with the dust of limestone, and the distant aroma of baking bread from the workers' village. This is my world, has been my world for more seasons than I care to count, and yet each morning brings with it a strange sense of purpose that I have learned to embrace. My name is Khaemwaset, and I am proud to say it with the reverence my mother once whispered it in my ear as a child. I am what they call a master builder, though that title was earned through years of dedication and skill. We are craftsmen of eternity, shapers of stone that will outlast the floods of 1,000 years. The great pyramid of Khufu rises before us each day like a mountain born of human will, and I have given my hands, my back, my very breath to its creation by choice, drawn by the honour of participating in something that will touch the divine. I came to this work as a young man, leaving my family's farm along the Nile to join the great project that promised not only steady wages, but the chance to be part of history itself. The pharaoh's agents had travelled throughout Egypt seeking skilled workers, offering good pay, regular meals, and medical care for those willing to dedicate themselves to this sacred task. My father, himself a master stone carver, understood my desire to test my skills against the greatest construction project the world had ever seen. The overseer's horn sounds across the camp, a deep note that seems to emerge from the earth itself. It is not harsh, not commanding, but patient like everything else about this monumental task. Time moves differently here on the Giza plateau. We measure our days not in the frantic rush of the city markets, but in the steady rhythm of stone upon stone, the careful precision of mortared joints, the slow ascent toward the heavens. I rise from my comfortable sleeping mat, feeling the familiar ache in my shoulders and the stiffness in my fingers that comes from a lifetime of working with stone. These hands of mine have become something I hardly recognize from my youth, yet I regard them with pride. The palms are thick with calluses that tell the story of every block I have lifted, every surface I have smoothed. The fingertips are permanently stained with limestone dust, badges of honour that mark me as one who shapes monuments for eternity. Around me, my companions stir in the gentle way of men who have learned that there is no rush in this work, no benefit to hasty movement. There is Seneb, whose laughter rings across the worksite like temple bells when he finds joy in the perfect fit of two stones. Beside him sleeps Amenhotep, whose eyes hold the wisdom of someone who remembers when this plateau was empty, when the pyramid existed only in the pharaoh's dreams and the architect's careful drawings. We are well cared for here, better than many workers throughout Egypt. Our tents are sturdy and weatherproof, our food abundant and varied, our beer ration generous enough to keep us healthy in this dry climate. The pharaoh understands that great work requires contented workers, that monuments to eternity cannot be built by unwilling hands. We stay because we choose to stay, because we have found meaning in this work that goes beyond mere wages. The tent flaps whisper in the morning breeze, and I can hear the sounds of our village awakening. Children's voices carry on the air, the children of workers like myself, born into this strange and wondrous world, where their playground is the shadow of eternity. Their laughter mingles with the gentle lowing of cattle being led to water, the soft conversations of women preparing the morning meal, the distant chanting of priests who bless our work each day as the sun climbs higher. I walk to the water basin outside our tent, the cool metal of the bronze vessel a pleasant shock against my palm. The water is clear and sweet, drawn from wells that tap deep into the earth's memory. As I splash it across my face and neck, I feel the dream fog of night wash away, replaced by the clear-eyed awareness that this work demands. Every movement here matters. Every stone placed carelessly could mean disaster for those who come after us. We are not merely building for Khufu, though his name will echo through time because of what we create. We are building for the idea that human hands can touch the eternal. The taste of barley bread and dried fish fills my mouth as I break my fast with the others. The bread is fresh, baked in the ovens that serve our community, rich with grain from the pharaoh's own stores. The fish comes from the Mediterranean, preserved with salt and herbs that speak of trade routes stretching across the known world. We eat well here, our bodies sustained by food fit for craftsmen engaged in sacred work. We eat in comfortable silence, watching the sun paint the eastern face of our growing pyramid in shades of gold and amber. Even incomplete, it dominates the horizon like a sleeping giant. The limestone blocks we quarried and placed yesterday catch the light and throw it back in a way that makes the entire structure seem to glow from within. Seneb passes me a cup of beer, the good strong brew that keeps us healthy in this dry climate. It tastes of grain and earth, honest flavours that remind me of the fields along the Nile where barley grows in endless waves. We are not so different from those farmers, I think. They plant seeds and tend crops, trusting in the annual flood to bring life to their efforts. We place stones and smooth joints, trusting that our daily labour will eventually reach toward the stars. I have been thinking more about purpose lately, about the strange honour that comes from being chosen for this work. In the villages along the river, men work to feed their families, to maintain their homes, to pass their trades down to their sons. Here, we work for something larger, something that will outlast not just our individual lives, but entire dynasties of pharaohs. The weight of this responsibility is both humbling and exhilarating. The horn sounds again, and we begin our walk to the pyramid site. Our feet know this path by heart, have worn it smooth over countless mornings like this one. The sand shifts beneath our good leather sandals with a soft whispering sound, and I find myself listening to it as if it might tell me secrets about the ages that came before us. The plateau stretches in all directions, broken only by the geometric perfection of our work and the smaller pyramids that rise around our great monument, like children gathered at their father's feet. The morning briefing brings news of the day's assignments, delivered by Hemiunu himself, the master architect whose vision guides every aspect of our work. He treats us with respect, understanding that skilled craftsmen require explanation rather than mere orders. Today we will work on the northern face, where blocks must be fitted with extraordinary precision to maintain the pyramid's perfect geometry. This is work that requires not just strength, but a kind of intuitive understanding of how stone wants to settle, how weight distributes itself, how the ancient principles of construction must be honoured even as we push them to their limits. As we approach the work site, I can see the ramps that spiral around the pyramid's growing bulk, those ingenious constructions that allow us to move massive stones up to heights that would have been impossible otherwise. The ramps are works of art in themselves, carefully calculated slopes that rise at just the right angle to balance the strength of our teams with the weight of the blocks we must move. The engineering that went into their design rivals that of the pyramid itself. The blocks themselves sit in neat rows, each one a perfect rectangle of creamy limestone, some so large that it takes 20 men working in careful coordination to move them into place. Others are smaller, fitted for spaces where precision matters more than raw size. Looking at them in the morning light, I am struck by how beautiful they are, how each one represents hours of careful work by skilled craftsmen who shaped them from the living rock of distant quarries. The quarries themselves exist in my memory like a dream within a dream. I spent my first years on this project working in those deep cuts in the earth, learning to read the grain of stone, to find the natural lines where blocks could be split without waste or damage. The sound of chisels ringing against stone would fill those spaces from dawn to dusk, a rhythm that became the heartbeat of our work. Even now, when I close my eyes, I can hear that music of metal on stone, can feel the satisfying shock that ran up my arms when a cut was made perfectly clean. My team consists of 8 skilled workers, each of whom I have worked alongside for so long that we communicate more through gesture and instinct than through words. There is Khaemwaset the younger, named for me but no relation, whose eye for measuring angles rivals that of the master architects. Beside him works Ptahhotep, whose gentle strength makes the heaviest lifting seem effortless. The others bring their own gifts, their own understanding of how stone and mortar and human intention combine to create something greater than the sum of its parts. We begin by examining the blocks that have been designated for today's work, running our hands over their surfaces, checking for any imperfections that might compromise the fit. The limestone is warm from the morning sun, smooth as polished wood in some places, rough with natural texture in others. Each block has its own personality, its own way of wanting to be positioned. Learning to read these subtle differences is part of what separates skilled builders from mere labourers. The first block of the day weighs perhaps 3 tons, a respectable size that will require all of our attention but will not push us beyond our capabilities. We position the wooden levers and ropes, taking care to distribute the lifting points evenly across the block's base. The rope is made from the finest papyrus fibre, twisted and woven until it is stronger than metal, supple enough to bend around corners, yet capable of bearing loads that would break lesser materials. As we begin to lift, I feel that familiar moment when individual effort combines into something larger. 8 skilled workers become a single entity, breathing together, moving together, thinking together. The block rises slowly, steadily, with the controlled power that comes from experience and mutual trust. There is no strain in this lifting, no desperate struggle. We have learned to work with the weight rather than against it, to find the rhythm that makes even the heaviest stones seem to float. The block settles into its designated position with a soft grinding sound that speaks of perfect fit. The mortar, mixed to the exact consistency that generations of builders have perfected, accepts the stone's weight and begins the slow process of bonding that will make these separate pieces into a single, eternal whole. We step back to admire our work, checking the alignments with the careful eye of craftsmen who take pride in precision. The sun climbs higher and our work continues with the steady rhythm that has carried this project forward for years. Block after block finds its place, each one measured and fitted with the care that this monument demands. The pyramid grows beneath our hands, one stone at a time, one perfectly placed joint at a time, one day's honest labour at a time. During the midday rest, we gather in the shade of the Great Pyramid itself, eating our generous meal of bread and onions and dates while the desert wind whispers across the plateau. The shade is cool and welcome, a gift from the very structure we are building. I lean back against one of the massive foundation stones and feel its solidity through my shoulders, its permanence, its quiet promise that what we are creating will endure long after we have returned to dust. The afternoon brings different work, the careful chiseling and smoothing that gives each block its final shape and surface. This is precision work that requires complete attention, the kind of focus that empties the mind of everything except the immediate sensation of tool meeting stone. The copper chisels are kept sharp by specialists whose only job is maintaining the edges that allow us to work with surgical precision. I find myself lost in the rhythm of this finishing work, each tap of the hammer driving the chisel a fraction deeper into the limestone, each stroke removing tiny flakes of stone that fall like snow at my feet. The surface slowly becomes smooth as glass, ready to accept the next course of blocks that will rise above it. This smoothing is meditative work, the kind that allows the mind to drift while the hands perform their practiced motions. As the sun begins its journey toward the western horizon, our work for the day nears completion. We step back to survey what we have accomplished, this day's addition to the eternal structure. 6 blocks fitted, shaped, and set in their permanent positions. 6 more stones added to the thousands that have come before, the thousands that will come after. The evening light transforms the pyramid into something almost ethereal, its limestone faces glowing with warm amber light that seems to come from within the stone itself. This is the hour when our work feels most sacred, most connected to purposes larger than our individual lives. The geometry of the structure, perfect and unchanging, seems to gather the light and concentrate it, as if the pyramid itself is preparing for its eventual role as a beacon across the centuries. We clean our tools with the care that good craftsmen show for the instruments of their trade. The chisels are wiped clean and wrapped in leather, the hammers checked for loose handles, the measuring rods carefully stored in the shelters built for that purpose. These tools are not mere objects, but partners in our work, extensions of our hands and minds that must be maintained with respect and attention. The walk back to our village in the evening is different from the morning journey. Our bodies carry the satisfied tiredness that comes from work well done, and our conversation flows more easily, loosened by the day's shared accomplishments. Zainab jokes about the stubbornness of one particular block that seemed determined to resist proper placement until we approached it from a different angle. Tahotep wonders aloud about the workers who will place the pyramid's final capstone, years in the future, and what thoughts will pass through their minds as they complete what we have begun. The cooking fires of our village send thin columns of smoke into the evening sky, and the aroma of roasted meat and baked bread reminds us that we are not just builders, but human beings, with human needs and human connections. Families gather around their evening meals, children play games in the dusty lanes between tents, elders sit in circles, sharing the wisdom that comes from long experience in this sacred work. My own tent welcomes me, like an old friend, its familiar smells and textures a comfort after the day's labour. I pour water into the washing basin and clean the day's dust from my hands and face, watching the limestone powder swirl in the water before settling to the bottom like tiny stars. My reflection wavers in the disturbed surface, showing me a face weathered by sun and wind, marked by years of this chosen work, but peaceful in the way that comes from labour that serves a purpose larger than oneself. The evening meal is generous and satisfying. Barley porridge flavoured with herbs, dried fish caught in the distant Mediterranean, dates sweet as honey, and good beer that quenches thirst without clouding the mind. I eat slowly, savouring each bite, thinking about the strange miracle that allows human beings to transform stone and mortar into monuments that speak to the eternal. As the first stars appear in the darkening sky, I step outside my tent one final time to look at our pyramid. Even in the growing darkness, its bulk dominates the horizon, a geometric mountain that seems to hold conversations with the stars themselves. Somewhere in its heart, chambers are being carved and decorated, spaces where the pharaoh will rest for all eternity, surrounded by treasures and spells, and everything needed for the journey beyond this world. I think about legacy as I prepare for sleep, about the strange immortality that comes not from living forever, but from creating something that will. My name may not be carved in stone alongside this monument, but something of me will remain here. Something of my careful attention and chosen labour will be part of this structure for as long as it stands. This thought brings peace rather than melancholy, satisfaction in work that transcends the individual life. The night sounds of our village settle around me like a familiar blanket, quiet conversations, the distant sound of children being sung to sleep, the gentle movement of wind through tent ropes and around the corners of stone buildings. These sounds blend with the deeper silence of the desert itself, the vast quiet that surrounds our small community of builders and craftsmen and dreamers who have chosen to dedicate our lives to something eternal. Sleep comes easily here, has always come easily after days spent in honest labour under the Egyptian sun. My body settles into the sleeping mat with the grateful relaxation of muscles well used, and my mind begins the gentle drift toward dreams. Sometimes I dream of the pyramid complete, its capstone gleaming in the sun, its chambers sealed and perfect. Sometimes I dream of the quarries where our stone is born, of the sound of chisels and the satisfaction of clean cuts through living rock. Tonight, as sleep takes hold of me, I find myself dreaming of choice itself, of the moment when I first decided to join this great work. I see myself as a young man, standing at the crossroads between a simple life along the Nile and this extraordinary opportunity to touch eternity. The choice was mine then, as it remains mine each morning when I rise to continue this sacred labour. The last thing I hear before sleep claims me completely is the distant sound of the Nile, that eternal river whose floods have nourished Egypt since the beginning of time. Like our pyramid, the river flows beyond human seasons, beyond individual lives, carrying its gifts and its mysteries from the heart of Africa to the edges of the Mediterranean. We are all part of something larger than ourselves, whether we shape stone or plant grain or tend children or preserve the knowledge of the ages. Tomorrow will bring another day of building, another opportunity to add our chosen efforts to this monument that reaches toward the stars. Another chance to touch the eternal through the honest work of human hands freely given. The seasons have turned many times since I first chose to leave my family's fields and join this sacred endeavour, and with each passing month I feel myself becoming more deeply woven into the fabric of this eternal work. The pyramid has grown beneath our hands like a living thing, its proportions shifting from the dreams of architects into the solid reality of limestone and mortar, of precise angles and perfect joints that will stand as testament to human dedication and divine inspiration long after the last of us has returned to dust. This morning brings with it the familiar ritual of awakening, yet something feels different in the air. Perhaps it is the way the light falls across the tent walls, softer somehow, more golden than usual, or perhaps it is the dream that still clings to the edges of my consciousness, a vision of the completed pyramid gleaming like a jewel against the desert sky, its capstone catching the first rays of dawn and throwing them back to the heavens like an offering of light itself. I have been having such dreams more frequently of late, visions of our work complete, of the chambers sealed and blessed, of the Pharaoh's eternal rest finally achieved through our skilled hands and devoted hearts. These dreams do not disturb my sleep, but rather seem to deepen it, as if my spirit is already dwelling partially in that future time when our labours will have reached their destined end. When I wake from such dreams, there is always a moment of profound peace, as if I have been granted a glimpse of the divine purpose that guides our daily efforts and validates our choice to dedicate our lives to this monument. The morning ablutions have become a meditation in themselves over these years of chosen service. The cool water in the bronze basin reflects my face, and I see in it not just the weathering of time and sun, but something deeper, a kind of serenity that comes from work that serves purposes larger than the individual life. My hands, as I wash them, tell the story of countless stones lifted with pride, countless surfaces smoothed with care, countless joints fitted with the precision that this monument demands and that we freely give. The calluses have deepened over these years. The stains of limestone dust have become permanent badges of honour. Yet these hands feel blessed rather than burdened by their service. They are the hands of a master craftsman, shaped by years of dedicated practice, capable of reading stone like a scribe reads papyrus. Each morning, as I flex my fingers and feel their strength, I am reminded of the choice I made to come here, to test my skills against the greatest construction project the world has ever seen. The village around me stirs with the gentle rhythm that has become as natural as breathing, a community born of shared purpose and mutual respect. Children's voices drift through the morning air, and I can hear young Neberman calling to his friends as they prepare for their own lessons with the scribes who record our daily progress. These children, born into the shadow of the growing pyramid, know no other world than this one, where stone reaches toward eternity and human hands shape monuments that will outlast empires. Neberman is the son of Amenhotep, my longtime companion in this work, and watching him grow from infant to boy to young man has been like watching time itself pass in miniature. He will likely never know a world without the pyramid, but by the time our work is complete, he will be a man himself, perhaps with children of his own, who will play in the shadow of our finished monument. This thought brings me a strange comfort, the idea that our work creates not just a structure, but a legacy of human continuity, a bridge between the generations that extends far into the future. The boy has already shown aptitude for working with stone, can judge the quality of limestone with an eye that rivals workers twice his age. His father speaks with pride of the possibility that Neberman might one day join our ranks, might choose to follow in the footsteps of those who have dedicated their lives to this sacred construction. It would be a good choice, I think, though the decision must be his own, as it was mine, as it was his father's before him. The morning meal tastes particularly rich today, perhaps because I am paying closer attention to each bite, each sip of good beer, each morsel of bread still warm from the ovens that serve our community. The Pharaoh's provision for us has always been generous, understanding that great work requires well-fed workers, that monuments to eternity cannot be built by hands weakened by hunger or hearts soured by poor treatment. The dates are sweet as honey, their flesh yielding and soft against my teeth, while the dried fish carries the salt taste of distant seas and speaks of the trade networks that support our work. These simple foods have sustained us through years of labour, and in their familiar flavours I find a kind of communion with all those who have shared this work, who have broken bread together in the service of something greater than themselves. Seneb joins me at the low table where we take our morning meal, his weathered face creased by a smile that speaks of contentment rather than mere happiness. He has aged well in this chosen work, his shoulders still strong despite the years of lifting and carrying, his eyes still bright with the enthusiasm that first brought him to this place. Like me, he could have left at any time, could have returned to his family's trade in Memphis, but something about this work, this purpose, has held him here through all these seasons. We eat in comfortable silence, watching the eastern light paint the pyramid's growing bulk in shades of gold and amber that seem to come from within the stone itself. The morning transformation never loses its power to inspire, this daily miracle when our work of human hands becomes something that seems to bridge the earthly and the divine. The precision of the angles, the perfect alignment of the faces, the mathematical harmony of the proportions, all speak to achievements that go beyond mere construction. The morning briefing from Khaemwaset brings news that fills me with a quiet excitement that comes with new challenges and opportunities to test our skills. We are to begin work on one of the internal passages today, those precise corridors that will guide the Pharaoh's spirit on its journey to the afterlife. This is work of extraordinary delicacy, requiring not just physical skill, but an understanding of sacred geometry, of the spiritual significance of each angle and proportion that has been calculated by the wisest architects and astronomers in Egypt. The passages must align with specific stars, must channel cosmic forces in ways that will aid the pharaoh's transformation from earthly king to divine presence. To work on these internal spaces is considered an honor among our brotherhood of skilled craftsmen, a recognition of abilities honed over years of faithful service and demonstrated expertise. Only those who have proven their understanding of stone and measurement, their dedication to precision above all else, are permitted to shape the chambers where eternity itself will dwell. I feel humbled by this trust, aware that my hands will be touching spaces that will remain sealed for thousands of years, that will hold mysteries beyond our current understanding. The responsibility is both weighty and exhilarating, a reminder of why I chose this work, why I have remained committed to it through all these years of patient labour. The entrance to the internal workings of the pyramid is like stepping into another world entirely, a realm where the ordinary rules of light and sound and space seem to operate differently. The air is cooler here, carrying a scent of fresh stone and the subtle perfume of incense burned by the priests who bless each day's progress. The walls around us are smooth as silk, fitted with a precision that leaves no gap wider than a hair, no joint visible to the eye even when examined closely. The very stones seem to glow with an inner light, reflecting the oil lamps that illuminate our work in patterns that shift and dance with each movement. The flame light creates an atmosphere of reverence and concentration, reminding us constantly that we are working in spaces that will serve sacred purposes long after our own lives have ended. My assigned section is part of the ascending passage, that remarkable corridor that climbs at a precise angle toward the heart of the pyramid. The mathematics of this passage are beyond my full comprehension, calculated by master architects who understand the movement of stars and the sacred proportions that govern all creation. Yet I can feel the rightness of these angles in my hands, can sense the way each stone wants to be placed to maintain the perfect alignment that will carry the pharaoh's spirit to its celestial destination. The stones used for this internal work are different from those we place on the exterior faces, selected with even greater care and shaped with even greater precision. These blocks are smaller, more finely cut, shaped from the finest limestone we can quarry from the choicest sections of the most carefully inspected quarries. Each one has been examined by specialists who understand both the structural and spiritual requirements of the spaces we are creating. No flaw is permitted in these sacred spaces, no imperfection allowed to mar the perfection that these chambers demand. The limestone must be free not only of cracks and weak spots, but of any blemish that might interfere with the spiritual purposes the passages will serve. Working with such perfect material is both a pleasure and a responsibility, requiring us to match the quality of our craftsmanship to the quality of the stone itself. Working by lamplight adds a different quality to our labour, a sense of intimacy and focus that is impossible to achieve in the bright desert sun. The shadows dance on the walls as we move, creating the illusion that the passage itself is alive, breathing with the rhythm of our work. The sound of chisel on stone takes on an almost musical quality in these enclosed spaces, each tap echoing softly from the walls until the entire passage seems to ring with a gentle harmony that speaks of precision and purpose. My partner in this delicate work is Katie, an older craftsman whose understanding of stone borders on the mystical, whose reputation for precision has made him sought after for the most demanding projects throughout Egypt. He could earn more gold working for wealthy merchants in Memphis or Thebes. But like me, like all of us who have remained with this project, he has found something here that goes beyond material reward. Katie can read the grain of limestone like a scribe reads hieroglyphs, can predict how each block will behave under stress, how it will age and settle over the centuries to come. Watching him work is like watching a master artist create a sculpture, each movement deliberate and purposeful, each cut made with absolute confidence in the result. His hands seem to know instinctively where the stone wants to be shaped, where it will accept the chisel's bite and where it will resist. We work in whispered conversation, partly out of respect for the sacred nature of our task and partly because the acoustics of the passage make normal speech seem uncomfortably loud. The enclosed space amplifies every sound, turns every footstep into a small thunder, every spoken word into something that seems to carry more weight than usual. Katie tells me stories of the pyramid's early days, of challenges overcome and innovations discovered, of the gradual evolution of techniques that have brought us to this level of precision and understanding. His words paint pictures of dedication and discovery that make me feel part of a tradition stretching back through generations of builders, each contributing their own insights and improvements to the accumulated wisdom of the craft. He speaks of master builders from the time of Giza, of innovations in stone cutting that made possible the perfectly fitted joints we take for granted today. He describes the first attempts to create internal passages, the trial and error that led to our current understanding of how to maintain structural integrity while creating the complex internal spaces that the pharaoh's eternal journey requires. The midday rest finds us emerging from the pyramid's interior into the blazing desert sun, our eyes squinting against the sudden brightness, our bodies grateful for the warmth that penetrates stone-cooled bones. The contrast between the sacred quiet of the internal passages and the bustling activity of the exterior work site is striking, like stepping between two different worlds that exist in the same space but serve different purposes. The exterior work continues with its own rhythm and requirements, teams of workers moving massive blocks with coordinated precision, masons checking alignments with instruments of brass and wood, supervisors consulting the detailed plans that guide every aspect of the construction. The scale of the operation is breathtaking even to those of us who witness it daily. This coordination of thousands of skilled workers in service of a single, unified vision. During this rest period, I find myself drawn to one of the observation platforms that have been built to allow the architects to monitor the pyramid's progress and check the accuracy of our work. From this elevated position, the true scale of our achievements becomes visible, the sheer ambition of what we have chosen to undertake together. The structure rises before me like a geometric mountain, its face is perfect planes that catch and reflect the light in ways that make the entire monument seem to pulse within a life. The precision of the corners, where the four faces meet in lines straight as arrows, speaks to a level of engineering skill and mathematical understanding that still amazes me despite my years of witnessing it daily. From this vantage point, I can also see the broader context of our work, the way our pyramid fits into the larger sacred complex that is taking shape on this plateau. The smaller pyramids of the pharaoh's family rise nearby, each one a masterpiece in its own right, while the Great Sphinx gazes eternally eastward from its position as guardian of this sacred space. Workers move like purposeful ants across the various projects, each person playing their part in a vast symphony of construction that has transformed this plateau from empty desert into a monument to human aspiration and divine purpose. The coordination required to make all of this work together, to ensure that the different projects complement rather than interfere with each other, represents a level of planning and organisation that rivals the construction itself. The afternoon brings return to the internal passages, where we continue the delicate work of fitting stones that will never see sunlight again once the pyramid is sealed. There is something profound about creating spaces that will remain hidden for millennia, about shaping stone that no human eye will look upon again once the pharaoh begins his eternal rest. Each joint must be perfect, not because it will be judged by observers, but because imperfection would be a betrayal of the sacred trust we have been given, a failure to honour the purpose that has drawn us to this work. The pharaoh depends on our skill and dedication to create the perfect conditions for his spiritual journey, and we who have chosen this responsibility take it seriously. As we work, Katie explains the symbolism embedded in the passage we are constructing, the layers of meaning that inform every measurement and proportion. The angle of ascent represents the pharaoh's journey from earthly existence to divine transformation, while the precise width allows for the passage of the royal sarcophagus while maintaining the cosmic proportions that will aid in the spiritual journey. Every measurement has meaning. Every proportion serves a purpose beyond mere structural necessity. The height of the passage corresponds to certain star positions. The width reflects sacred mathematical relationships. The length is calculated to create harmonic resonances that will aid in the pharaoh's transformation. We are not just building corridors, but creating instruments of spiritual transition, spaces designed to facilitate the movement from mortal life to eternal existence. The stone we work with today comes from a quarry blessed by the priests of Ptah, the god of craftsmen and creators, whose favour we invoke in all our work. Each block was cut with ceremonies and prayers, shaped by craftsmen who understood their role as servants of the divine plan. Handling these stones feels like participating in a ritual that extends far beyond the physical act of construction, like being part of a sacred dialogue between human skill and divine purpose. The work requires a kind of concentration that empties the mind of all concerns except the immediate task, a focus that transforms the act of construction into a form of meditation. Each tap of the hammer must be precisely placed, each cut made with full attention to its effect on the whole. In this state of focused attention, time seems to stop, or perhaps to flow differently, as if the passage itself exists outside the normal stream of days and seasons. Late in the afternoon, we reach a significant milestone in our section of the passage. The final stone of a particularly challenging sequence slides into place with the soft grinding sound that speaks of perfect fit, the kind of precision that comes only from years of practice and deep understanding of the materials we work with. The joint is invisible, the alignment exact, the surface smooth as polished marble. We step back to admire our work, and in that moment I feel connected, not just to my fellow craftsmen, but to the eternal purpose that this passage will serve. This section of corridor will guide the pharaoh's spirit on its journey to the stars, will be part of the sacred architecture that transforms a mortal king into a divine presence. The knowledge that our hands have shaped something that will serve such a purpose fills me with a satisfaction that goes beyond mere pride in craftsmanship. The evening brings ceremony, as it often does when significant progress has been made on the internal spaces. The priests arrive with their incense and chants, blessing the day's work and invoking protection for the sacred spaces we are creating. The smoke of frankincense rises in the lamplight, carrying our prayers and intentions toward the ceiling of worked stone that will soon be sealed forever. The ritual reminds us of the larger purpose that guides our work, the spiritual dimensions that elevate our construction from mere building to sacred service. The priests speak blessings over our tools, over our hands, over the stones we have placed with such care. Their words connect our daily labour to the cosmic purposes it serves, reminding us that we are participants in something far greater than a construction project. As we emerge from the pyramid's interior for the final time today, the desert air feels almost shockingly fresh after hours in the enclosed passages. The sun is setting behind us, painting the western face of the pyramid in shades of deep gold and amber that seem to make the entire structure glow like a beacon that will guide souls across the centuries. This is the daily miracle that never loses its power to inspire, the transformation of our stone monument into something that seems to bridge the earthly and the divine. The way the light plays across the perfectly fitted blocks, the way the geometric precision catches and reflects the sun's rays, the way the entire structure seems to pulse with life. All of this reminds us why we chose this work, why we have dedicated our lives to its completion. The walk back to our village takes longer tonight, partly because my body carries the particular tiredness that comes from detailed work in confined spaces, and partly because I find myself stopping frequently to look back at the pyramid. Each time I see it from a different angle, notice new details in the way the evening light plays across its faces, discover fresh reasons for wonder at the achievement it represents. Each viewing reveals something new, some aspect of the design that speaks to the genius of its conception or the skill of its execution. The way the proportions create a sense of both massive stability and upward reach, the way the faces seem to gather light and concentrate it, the way the entire structure seems to participate in the daily drama of sunrise and sunset. All of this confirms my choice to be part of this great work. Our village has grown over the years, expanding from a temporary camp into something approaching a proper town, a community that has taken on a life and character of its own. There are permanent buildings now, constructed of the same fine limestone we use for the pyramid, housing the families of workers and the workshops where specialized tools are made and maintained. The streets are laid out with the same attention to geometry that guides our monument, creating a community that reflects in miniature the principles of order and precision that govern our greater work. The village itself has become a kind of monument to the possibility of human cooperation, a demonstration that people from different backgrounds and different parts of Egypt can come together in service of a common purpose. The evening meal is a more elaborate affair tonight, celebrating the completion of another section of the ascending passage. Families gather around shared tables, children listen to stories of the day's achievements, and elders offer blessings for the work still to come. The food tastes richer somehow, flavoured by satisfaction and camaraderie, by the knowledge that we are part of something that will endure beyond our individual lives. The bread is fresh and warm, the meat properly seasoned with herbs from the pharaoh's own gardens, the beer strong enough to lift the spirits without clouding the mind. We eat like the skilled craftsmen we are, people whose labour is valued and whose contribution is recognised. The pharaoh understands that great work requires not just willing hands, but contented hearts, and the quality of our provisions reflects this understanding. Amenhotep tells stories tonight of the master builders who first conceived this project, of the years of planning and calculation that preceded the placement of the first stone. He speaks of the astronomical observations that determine the pyramid's orientation, of the mathematical principles that govern its proportions, of the spiritual consultations that blessed its conception. These stories feel like ancient myths, even though they describe events within living memory, tales of a time when divine inspiration and human skill combined to conceive something unprecedented in the history of the world. The vision required to imagine such a structure, the faith required to believe it could be built, the skill required to actually construct it, all of these elements came together in a moment of creative possibility that we are privileged to help realize. Young Nebamun listens to these stories with the same rapt attention I remember from my own childhood, when the achievements of master craftsmen seemed like magic, when the possibility of participating in such work seemed like a distant dream. His eyes shine with the possibility that he too might one day contribute to work of such significance, might add his own skills to the great project that has defined our community for so many years. In his eager face, I see my own younger self, full of dreams and determination to be worthy of this sacred trust. The choice to join this work will be his to make, as it was mine, but I can see already that the seed has been planted, that the vision of what human hands can achieve when guided by divine purpose, has taken root in his imagination. The night brings different sounds now than it did in the early years of construction, the rhythms of a permanent community rather than a temporary camp. Children play games in the dusty lanes, their laughter mixing with the gentle conversations of adults and the distant sound of workshops where tomorrow's tools are being prepared and maintained. The sounds speak of stability and continuity, of a community that has found its rhythm and its purpose. We are no longer just workers gathered for a project, but neighbours and friends, people whose lives have become intertwined through shared labour and common dedication. The pyramid has created not just a monument, but a way of life, a demonstration of what becomes possible when people choose to work together in service of something greater than themselves. I spend longer tonight in my personal evening ritual, the quiet time when I reflect on the day's work and prepare my spirit for sleep. The bronze mirror shows me a face marked by years of this chosen labour, weathered but peaceful, aged but not worn down. These years have changed me in ways that go beyond the physical, have shaped my understanding of what it means to participate in work that serves purposes larger than the individual life. The lamp beside my comfortable sleeping mat casts gentle shadows on the tent walls, creating patterns that shift and dance with each small movement of the flame. In these shadows, I sometimes see shapes that remind me of the hieroglyphs carved in the pyramid's deepest chambers, symbols that speak of transformation and eternal life, of the journey from earthly existence to divine presence. Tonight the shadows seem particularly active, as if responding to the significance of the progress we made today, as if the very air in my tent has been touched by the sacred work we performed in the pyramid's hidden passages. The patterns on the walls seem almost to tell stories, to speak of mysteries beyond current understanding, of purposes that will only be fully revealed when our work is complete and the pharaoh begins his eternal journey. Sleep comes differently after days spent working in the pyramid's interior, bringing with it dreams that seem more vivid and meaningful than usual. The cool stone of the passages seems to have entered my bones, bringing with it a sense of deep stability, of connection to something permanent and enduring that will outlast the rise and fall of dynasties. My dreams tonight are filled with visions of completion, of the moment when the final stone will be placed and our great work will stand finished under the stars. I see the pyramid as it will be, perfect and eternal, its chambers sealed and ready, its passages aligned with the cosmic forces that will aid the pharaoh's transformation. In these dreams I am not saddened by the thought that my own life will end before I can see that completion, but rather filled with joy at the knowledge that my chosen contribution will be part of something that will endure for thousands of years. The work we do with our hands becomes immortal, even as our bodies return to dust, a kind of resurrection through stone and mortar and the dedication of human skill to divine purpose. The last sound I hear before sleep claims me completely is the gentle murmur of voices from nearby tents, other workers sharing their own thoughts about the day's achievements, their own hopes for tomorrow's progress. We are bound together not just by the work we do, but by the choice we have made to do it, by the shared understanding that some purposes are worth dedicating a lifetime to serve. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new opportunities to test our skills against the demands of this sacred construction. There will be stones to lift and fit, surfaces to smooth and align, measurements to check and recheck. But tonight, as sleep takes hold of me, I am content in the knowledge that I have chosen well, that my life has been given meaning through service to something that will touch eternity. The pyramid rises in my dreams, growing stone by stone toward its destined completion, and I am part of that growth, part of that reaching toward the stars that represents the highest aspiration of human hands guided by divine purpose. In choosing this work, I have chosen to be part of something eternal, and in that choice, I find the peace that comes from a life well lived in service to purposes greater than the self. Reflecting on the work that went into the building of the pyramids, for centuries Hollywood has painted a picture of pyramid construction dominated by whips, chains, and endless human suffering. Countless slaves, we were told, died building monuments to pharaonic vanity. But archaeology tells us a completely different story. The pyramids of Egypt were built not by slaves, but by skilled workers, organized teams, and seasonal laborers who took immense pride in their craft. The evidence lies buried in the desert sands around the Great Pyramids themselves. In the 1990s, archaeologists discovered something remarkable near the Giza complex, an entire cemetery dedicated to the pyramid builders. These weren't mass graves or unmarked pits. These were proper burials, complete with bread, beer and meat provisions for the afterlife. Some graves even featured small pyramids built over them, miniature versions of the great monuments their occupants had helped construct. The hieroglyphic records paint an equally compelling picture. Ancient Egyptian texts speak of organized work gangs with spirited names like Friends of Khufu, Drunkards of Menkaure Tadu, and Life of the Two Lands Gang. These weren't the desperate markings of the oppressed. Inside the Great Pyramid itself, workers left graffiti boasting of their teams. The gang, the White Crown of Khufu, is powerful. And how powerful is the White Crown of Khufu? These inscriptions reveal workers who took fierce pride in their labour and wanted their names remembered for eternity. So who were these pyramid builders? Archaeological evidence reveals a complex, highly organised workforce numbering in the thousands. The Greek historian Herodotus famously claimed that 100,000 men built the Great Pyramid, but modern calculations suggest a more realistic figure of 20,000 to 30,000 total workers, with only 2,000 to 4,000 actually working on the pyramid structure at any given time. The workforce was carefully stratified. At the apex stood the master craftsmen, skilled stonemasons, architects, and engineers who were permanent employees of the royal court. These were Egypt's elite builders, men who had spent decades perfecting their craft and overseeing massive construction projects. They lived in relative comfort and commanded respect throughout Egyptian society. Below them worked the core pyramid builders, experienced stoneworkers, carpenters, and metal workers who formed the backbone of the construction effort. These men worked year-round at Giza, living in purpose-built villages that archaeologists have now excavated and mapped in remarkable detail. The largest group consisted of seasonal workers, farmers who arrived each year during the 3-month flood season when the Nile inundated their fields. For these men, pyramid work represented both economic opportunity and religious duty. They would leave their villages carrying letters of introduction, join work gangs with colourful names, and spend months hauling stones and building ramps before returning home with payment in grain, beer and oil. Archaeological excavations have revealed the remarkable infrastructure built to support this massive workforce. Near the Giza pyramids, researchers have uncovered an entire workers' city, complete with sleeping quarters, dining halls, bakeries and breweries. The bakeries alone could produce enough bread to feed 20,000 people daily, while the breweries produced hundreds of gallons of beer, the staple drink of ancient Egypt that provided both nutrition and calories for hard physical labour. The workers lived in long stone galleries, each housing about 40 men. They slept on stone platforms, covered with matting, their few possessions stored in small alcoves carved into the walls. The quarters were cramped but organised, with clear hierarchies reflected in the quality of accommodations. Team leaders enjoyed slightly larger spaces and better furnishings. Food was abundant and varied, a crucial discovery that definitively disproves the slave labour theory. Chemical analysis of workers' bones reveals diets rich in protein, including beef, mutton, goat, and fish. The workers consumed enormous quantities of bread, onions, garlic, and radishes, foods that Herodotus noted were carved into pyramid inscriptions recording the cost of feeding the workforce. Beer was distributed daily, providing essential calories and nutrients. Medical care was surprisingly sophisticated. Examination of workers' skeletons reveals evidence of successful surgery, including the repair of broken bones and even primitive brain surgery. Workers who suffered injuries on the job received treatment and were often able to return to work. Some skeletons show evidence of multiple healed fractures, suggesting that experienced workers continued their careers despite workplace accidents. The work itself was backbreaking but not chaotic. Modern experiments using ancient Egyptian tools have revealed the incredible efficiency of pyramid construction techniques. Teams of 20 men could move 2.5-ton limestone blocks using copper tools, wooden levers, and rope. The Egyptians had perfected a system of ramps, rollers, and pulleys that allowed them to lift massive stones hundreds of feet into the air with remarkable precision. The quarrying of stone was itself a marvel of organisation. The core blocks came from quarries immediately south of the Giza plateau, while the fine limestone casing stones were quarried at Tura across the Nile. The massive granite blocks used in the pyramid's interior came from Aswan, 500 miles to the south. Each type of stone required different tools, techniques, and transportation methods. Copper tools were essential for the limestone work. Teams of quarrymen would pound copper chisels into natural cracks in the rock, then use wooden wedges soaked in water to split massive blocks free. The copper tools were constantly resharpened and replaced. Archaeologists have found evidence of enormous copper working operations at Giza, including furnaces for smelting and workshops for tool production. The transportation of stones from quarry to pyramid was a logistical masterpiece. During flood season, when the Nile ran high, blocks could be floated on barges directly to harbours built near the construction site. During dry season, teams of workers dragged blocks on wooden sledges along carefully maintained roadways. Recent discoveries have revealed an entire harbour complex at Giza, complete with channels, docks, and storage areas for incoming materials. The precision of pyramid construction still amazes modern engineers. The base of the Great Pyramid is level to within just 2.1 centimetres across its 230-metre width. The angles are accurate to within 3/60ths of a degree. This precision required not just skilled craftsmen, but sophisticated planning and measurement techniques that we're still working to understand. Work gangs operated on strict schedules tied to Egypt's agricultural calendar. During flood season, when farmers couldn't work their fields, the pyramid workforce swelled to maximum capacity. Teams competed against each other in friendly rivalry, racing to complete sections of construction. The gang names preserved in hieroglyphic inscriptions reflect this competitive spirit. Teams proudly proclaimed their superiority over rivals. The religious significance of pyramid building cannot be overstated. For ancient Egyptians, these monuments weren't just tombs, they were machines for ensuring the pharaoh's successful journey to the afterlife and his continued protection of Egypt. Workers weren't just building stone structures, they were participating in cosmic rituals essential for maintaining Ma'at, the divine order that kept the universe functioning. This religious dimension helps explain the workers' motivation and pride. Pyramid builders weren't just earning wages, they were performing sacred duties that would benefit all of Egypt. Inscriptions describe workers as servants of the god and emphasize their role in ensuring the pharaoh's divine transformation after death. The organization of work gangs reflected Egypt's larger social structure. Gangs were divided into groups of 1,000 to 2,000 men, subdivided into crews of 200, then into teams of 20. Each level had its own leaders, specialists, and support staff. This hierarchy ensured efficient coordination of thousands of workers while maintaining clear chains of command and responsibility. Skilled specialists worked alongside the general labourers. Stonemasons spent years learning to cut and fit blocks with extraordinary precision. Surveyors used sophisticated instruments to maintain the pyramid's exact orientation and angles. Engineers designed and built the complex system of internal chambers, passages, and air shafts that characterize pyramid architecture. The Great Pyramid alone contains approximately 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing between 2.5 and 15 tons. Moving and placing these blocks required not just brute strength, but careful planning, precise timing, and sophisticated engineering. Recent computer simulations suggest that the entire structure could have been completed in about 20 years using the workforce and techniques available to the ancient Egyptians. Evidence suggests that pyramid building was seasonal work for many participants. Farmers would arrive at Giza after flood season began in July, work through the autumn months, and return home in time for spring planting. This pattern made economic sense for both the state and individual workers. The government could tap into agricultural labour when it wasn't needed for farming, while workers could earn additional income during months when farm work was impossible. The social impact of pyramid building extended far beyond the construction sites themselves. The massive projects required extensive support networks, quarries, workshops, supply chains, and administrative systems that employed thousands of additional workers throughout Egypt. Entire industries developed to support pyramid construction, from metalworking to boat building to food production. Women played crucial but often overlooked roles in pyramid construction. While they didn't work on the monuments themselves, women managed the vast support operations that kept the builders fed, clothed, and equipped. Archaeological evidence reveals extensive textile production, food processing, and pottery making in the workers' villages, activities primarily managed by women. The economic impact of pyramid building was enormous. The projects functioned as massive public works programs, redistributing wealth throughout Egyptian society and providing employment for thousands of people. The state collected taxes in the form of agricultural products, then used these resources to pay workers in bread, beer, meat, and other necessities. Recent discoveries continue to revolutionize our understanding of pyramid construction. In 2013, archaeologists discovered papyrus records at Wadi al-Jarf that provide unprecedented insight into pyramid logistics. These 4,500-year-old documents detail the transportation of limestone blocks from Tura quarries to Giza, including precise records of team assignments, boat schedules, and delivery dates. The papyri reveal a bureaucracy of staggering complexity and efficiency. Every boat journey was recorded, every team's productivity tracked, every delivery of materials documented. This wasn't the chaotic slave labour of Hollywood imagination, but a sophisticated operation managed with precision that would impress modern project managers. One papyrus fragment describes Inspector Mera, who oversaw the transportation of limestone blocks during the final years of Khufu's reign. His logbook entries provide day-by-day accounts of pyramid construction activities, including detailed descriptions of work schedules, team rotations, and material deliveries. These documents offer the closest thing we have to first-person accounts of pyramid building. The evidence for worker pride and satisfaction extends beyond hieroglyphic boasts to physical evidence in the monuments themselves. Workers regularly left their marks in hidden locations, signatures, team names, and personal inscriptions that wouldn't be seen again for millennia. These weren't the desperate scratches of the oppressed, but the proud signatures of craftsmen marking their participation in history's greatest construction project. The end of the Pyramid Age didn't mark the end of Egypt's building traditions. The techniques, organizational methods, and craftsmanship developed during pyramid construction influenced Egyptian architecture for centuries. Temple complexes, royal tombs, and public monuments throughout Egyptian history bore the influence of lessons learned at Giza, Saqqara, and other pyramid sites. Modern Egypt takes tremendous pride in its pyramid building heritage. Contemporary Egyptians see the monuments not as symbols of oppression, but as testaments to their ancestors' skill, organization, and achievement. The workers who built the pyramids are remembered not as nameless slaves, but as the skilled craftsmen, engineers, and laborers who created wonders that still inspire awe 4,500 years later. The story of the pyramid builders challenges our assumptions about ancient societies and the nature of monumental construction. These weren't desperate slaves driven by whips, but organized communities of workers motivated by religious duty, economic opportunity, and professional pride. They developed revolutionary techniques, created sophisticated support systems, and left behind monuments that continue to astound modern engineers. Perhaps most remarkably, they wanted to be remembered. In hidden chambers and forgotten corners of the pyramids, archaeologists continue to discover the names, boasts, and signatures of individual workers. The gang of the Great Pyramid left their mark for eternity, ensuring that future generations would know who really built these eternal monuments. The workers who built the pyramids represent one of humanity's greatest collective achievements. Through their skill, dedication, and organizational genius, they created monuments that have outlasted empires, survived millennia, and continue to inspire wonder in millions of visitors each year. They were not slaves but masters, masters of stone, masters of engineering, and masters of human cooperation on an unprecedented scale. Their legacy extends far beyond the monuments themselves. The techniques they developed, the organizational methods they pioneered, and the standards of craftsmanship they established influenced construction projects throughout the ancient world and continue to inform modern engineering. The pyramid builders didn't just create monuments to dead pharaohs, they created a foundation for human achievement that resonates across the centuries. Today, as we stand before the great pyramids of Giza, we see more than ancient tombs or tourist attractions. We see the work of thousands of individual human beings who chose to dedicate their lives to creating something eternal. Their names may be largely forgotten, but their achievement remains, carved in stone and built to last forever, a testament to what human beings can accomplish when they work together toward a common goal. The pyramid builders of ancient Egypt remind us that the greatest human achievements arise not from oppression and suffering, but from skill, organization, pride, and the desire to create something greater than ourselves. In their story, we find not just the solution to an ancient mystery, but inspiration for our own efforts to build a better world. Secrets of the Great Pyramid: what remains to be discovered. For over 4,000 years, the Great Pyramid of Giza has stood as humanity's most enduring mystery. Despite centuries of exploration, cutting-edge technology, and intensive research, this ancient wonder continues to guard its secrets. Recent discoveries have only deepened the enigma, revealing that we may have barely scratched the surface of what lies hidden within Khufu's eternal monument. The Great Pyramid is not just a pile of stones, it is a complex three-dimensional puzzle whose internal architecture remains largely unexplored. What we know represents perhaps only a fraction of what exists within its 2.3 million stone blocks. Modern technology is now revealing chambers, passages, and structures that have remained hidden since the pyramid's completion 4,500 years ago. In 2017, the Scan Pyramids project made headlines worldwide with the discovery of a massive void within the Great Pyramid structure. Using cosmic ray muon tomography, a technique that detects particles from space as they pass through matter, researchers identified a chamber at least 30 meters long located above the Grand Gallery. This void, comparable in size to the Grand Gallery itself, represents the first major internal discovery in the Great Pyramid since the 19th century. But this revelation raises more questions than it answers. What is the purpose of this enormous space? How can it be accessed? And most intriguingly, what does it contain? The void appears to have been deliberately constructed, not simply a gap left by shifting stones. Its precise location and orientation suggest it was an integral part of the pyramid's original design, yet it appears on no ancient plans or descriptions. The discovery challenges our fundamental understanding of the pyramid's internal layout. For generations, archaeologists believed they had mapped the monument's major internal features: the ascending and descending passages, the Grand Gallery, the King's Chamber, and the Queen's Chamber. The existence of this massive void suggests that entire sections of the pyramid remain unexplored and unknown. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have hinted at additional anomalies throughout the structure. Electromagnetic signatures suggest the presence of other chambers, passages, and possibly even artifacts that have never been detected by conventional exploration. These readings indicate that the Great Pyramid may contain a far more complex internal network than previously imagined. The Queen's Chamber, long considered a secondary burial chamber, continues to yield surprises. In the 1990s, a robot exploration of the chamber's southern shaft revealed a mysterious stone door with copper handles. When this door was finally penetrated in 2002, it revealed not a chamber, but another passage leading to yet another stone door. This discovery suggests that the pyramid's shaft system is far more complex than originally believed, potentially connecting to undiscovered chambers deep within the structure. The northern shaft of the Queen's Chamber presents an equally intriguing mystery. Unlike its southern counterpart, this passage remains largely unexplored due to technical difficulties in navigating its cramped confines. Recent fiber optic investigations have revealed that this shaft too may lead to previously unknown chambers or passages. The purpose of these elaborate shaft systems remains one of the pyramid's greatest enigmas. Thermal imaging of the Great Pyramid has revealed temperature anomalies that suggest hidden chambers or passages behind seemingly solid walls. Infrared surveys conducted at different times of day and in various seasons have identified cool spots that may indicate voids within the structure. These thermal signatures appear in areas where no chambers or passages were previously suspected, suggesting that significant discoveries await future exploration. The pyramid's foundation level remains largely uninvestigated. While tourists and researchers focus on the pyramid's internal chambers, the bedrock beneath the structure may contain the most significant secrets. Ancient Egyptian texts reference elaborate foundation ceremonies and ritual deposits that may have been placed beneath major monuments. Ground-penetrating radar has identified anomalies in the bedrock that could represent underground chambers, storage areas, or ritual spaces. Seismic surveys of the Giza plateau have revealed subsurface anomalies that extend far beyond the pyramid's visible footprint. These underground features may represent part of a larger complex that included the pyramid as just one element. Ancient Egyptian temples typically included extensive underground areas for storage, ritual activities, and symbolic purposes. The Great Pyramid complex may conceal similar subterranean installations. The pyramid's precise orientation and internal geometry continue to puzzle researchers. Recent laser measurements have revealed that the monument's internal passages and chambers align with astronomical phenomena with extraordinary precision. However, these alignments may encode additional information about hidden chambers or features. Computer modeling suggests that undiscovered passages may exist along precise geometric lines that have not yet been fully explored. Robotic exploration technology is opening new possibilities for pyramid investigation. Micro-robots small enough to navigate the pyramid's narrowest passages could explore areas that have remained inaccessible to human investigators. These devices could map previously unknown shaft systems, investigate the spaces behind stone doors, and potentially access chambers that have been sealed since ancient times. Advanced imaging techniques are revealing construction details that may point to hidden features. High-resolution X-ray systems and neutron activation analysis can detect variations in stone density and composition that might indicate the presence of voids, different materials, or concealed passages. These techniques have already identified anomalies in the pyramid structure that warrant further investigation. The Great Pyramid's external surface holds its own mysteries. The monument was originally covered with smooth limestone casing stones that created a perfect geometric form. Most of these casing stones were removed in medieval times, but archaeological investigations of the remaining fragments have revealed intricate details about the pyramid's original appearance and possibly its internal features. Some casing stones contain markings and inscriptions that may provide clues to hidden chambers or passages. The pyramid's internal air circulation system presents another unsolved puzzle. The monument contains a sophisticated network of air shafts that connect its internal chambers to the outside atmosphere. However, the complete extent of this system remains unknown. Some air shafts may connect to undiscovered chambers, while others may serve purposes beyond simple ventilation. The ancient Egyptians understood the importance of air circulation in large stone structures, and their solutions may be more complex than currently realized. Recent investigations have focused on the pyramid's stress patterns and structural engineering. Computer models of the monument's weight distribution have identified areas where the ancient builders incorporated stress relief systems that may include hidden chambers or passages. These structural voids would have been essential for the pyramid's long-term stability, but they may also have served ceremonial or storage purposes. The Great Pyramid's relationship to the broader Giza complex continues to reveal new possibilities for discovery. Underground passages may connect the pyramid to the nearby Sphinx, smaller pyramids, or mastaba tombs. Ancient Egyptian temple complexes typically included extensive tunnel systems, and the Giza plateau may conceal similar features. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have identified linear anomalies that could represent underground corridors linking various monuments. Acoustic analysis of the pyramid's internal chambers has revealed unusual sound properties that may indicate the presence of hidden spaces. The chambers resonate at specific frequencies that could be enhanced by undiscovered chambers or passages. Ancient Egyptian religious practices included elaborate sound rituals, and the pyramid's acoustic properties may have been designed to facilitate these ceremonies in ways we don't yet understand. Chemical analysis of the pyramid's internal atmosphere has detected trace gases that may originate from sealed chambers or organic materials within the structure. These atmospheric signatures could guide investigators to previously unknown areas that contain artifacts, ritual materials, or other significant discoveries. The pyramid's internal environment has remained remarkably stable for millennia, potentially preserving organic materials that could revolutionize our understanding of ancient Egyptian burial practices. The use of artificial intelligence and machine learning is opening new approaches to pyramid exploration. Computer algorithms can analyze vast amounts of data from various sensing technologies to identify patterns and anomalies that human investigators might miss. These systems can integrate information from thermal imaging, ground-penetrating radar, seismic surveys, and other techniques to create comprehensive maps of hidden features. Satellite-based remote sensing continues to reveal new information about the pyramid and its surroundings. High-resolution satellite imagery can detect subtle variations in surface temperature, moisture, and vegetation that may indicate subsurface features. These techniques have already identified previously unknown structures around the Giza complex and may reveal additional features associated with the Great Pyramid itself. The potential for discovering intact burial chambers within the Great Pyramid remains one of the most exciting possibilities for future research. While the King's Chamber was found empty by early explorers, it's possible that other burial chambers exist within the structure. Ancient Egyptian royal burial practices often included multiple chambers for different purposes, and the pyramid may contain sealed chambers that have never been disturbed. Archaeological evidence from other pyramid sites suggests that the Great Pyramid may contain chambers dedicated to specific religious or ceremonial purposes. These might include chapels for ongoing ritual activities, storage areas for ceremonial equipment, or chambers designed for specific aspects of the pharaoh's afterlife journey. Such spaces would have been constructed as integral parts of the pyramid's design, but carefully concealed from unauthorized access. The discovery of organic materials within the pyramid could provide unprecedented insights into ancient Egyptian construction techniques, religious practices, and daily life. Sealed chambers might contain wooden artifacts, textiles, food offerings, or other perishable materials that have been preserved by the pyramid's stable internal environment. Such discoveries could include construction tools, ceremonial objects, or even written records that document the pyramid's building process. Advanced dating techniques applied to materials from newly discovered areas could refine our understanding of the pyramid's construction timeline. Radiocarbon dating, dendrochronology, and other methods could provide precise dates for different phases of construction, potentially revealing that the building process was more complex or extended than currently believed. The investigation of the pyramid's foundation and bedrock interface remains largely unexplored territory. This area might contain foundation deposits, ritual chambers, or structural features that are essential to understanding the monument's complete design. Ancient Egyptian construction practices often included elaborate foundation ceremonies that might have left archaeological traces still waiting to be discovered. Future discoveries within the Great Pyramid could fundamentally alter our understanding of ancient Egyptian civilization, construction techniques, and religious beliefs. Each new chamber, passage, or artifact has the potential to provide insights that could rewrite textbooks and challenge long-held assumptions about this ancient wonder. The Great Pyramid stands as a testament to human achievement, but it also remains one of our greatest unsolved puzzles. As technology continues to advance and new exploration techniques become available, we edge closer to unlocking secrets that have remained hidden for over 4 millennia. The next great discovery may be just beyond the next stone door, waiting in a chamber that has remained sealed since the time of the pharaohs. What we know about the Great Pyramid represents only the beginning of a story that continues to unfold. Each investigation reveals new mysteries, each discovery raises new questions, and each technological advance opens new possibilities for exploration. The pyramid's greatest secrets may still lie hidden within its ancient stones, waiting for the next generation of researchers to bring them to light. The quest to fully understand the Great Pyramid is far from over. In fact, we may be entering the most exciting phase of pyramid exploration in modern history. With new technologies, fresh approaches, and unprecedented access to the monument's interior, researchers are poised to make discoveries that could rival the most significant archaeological finds of the past century. The Great Pyramid has kept its secrets for over 4,000 years, but modern science, patient investigation, and human curiosity are slowly but surely revealing the mysteries that lie hidden within this eternal monument. The next chapter of the pyramid story is yet to be written, and it promises to be as remarkable as anything we have discovered so far.